Welcome to No Cape Required, Episode 1. Your True Voice Matters. So there's this 16-year-old girl in high school who's making straight A's. And that in itself is not really remarkable. However, this girl's father was suffering from mental health issues, and she was working two jobs to help pay for bills and really care for her father. Her math class that year was geometry. And because of her responsibilities, something really had to give. She just couldn't keep up with all of the responsibilities and keep all those balls in the air. So her geometry homework was the ball that she dropped. Now, her teacher for this class was a sports coach for the high school, and coaching came first, and teaching came second, and connections with students came absolutely dead last, if at all. He definitely was no Ted Lasso, and if you have not watched that series, you must. Like today's coaches, who are also teachers, they teach only really because they must. They really prefer to be full-time coaches, I think. So let me give you an image of this coach. He wore polyester shorts and probably a polyester shirt as well, knee-high tube socks with the three rings around them. He had a whistle around his neck and then a baseball cap on his head. Now, the school year had just started, and a few weeks had passed when the coach called this 16-year-old girl to his desk one day after class, and here's what he had to say. He said, "You're failing my class, and I'm going to drop you. You just need to take functional math." Now, by the way, functional math is simply that math where you do things like balance your checkbook and other practical applications for math. Now, this particular teenager had been dealing with mortgage payments and managing a budget and other real world math problems for a while. But this coach really had no idea about any of this. There was no, hey, I know you're a good student. What's going on? Or are you having some sort of trouble? Zero conversation. In addition to saying that he was going to drop her from the class and that she should take this functional math, he also added that she wasn't college material anyway, so it really didn't matter what math class she took. Can you imagine the punch in the gut that this girl received that day after all she was trying to deal with? So, how does the story end? She did take the functional math class, but a lot of good that did her because she refuses to balance her checkbook, even to this day. This incident created a lifelong learning in her to really to prove him wrong. It wasn't so much to prove herself right, but it was more about proving him wrong. She decided that she was going to get the highest degree that she could, even though she really didn't know what that degree was at the time. And she did get the highest degree. She got a PhD and then four more degrees to go along with that. She also, very importantly, decided and declared that very day, standing in front of that geometry teacher, to herself, mind you, that she was going to empower people really instead of tearing them down. This 16-year-old girl is me. I'm Dara Rossi, and every time I share this story, it brings some tears to my eyes because I listen to someone tell me who I was or who I wasn't. That voice became my inner critic. It really became my inner drive more so than the inner critic. And every time I'd get a degree, I would say, well, maybe you need another degree. Maybe that was a fluke. After all, you're not college material. I began to own what he had said back when I was 16. But I am holding true to my declaration that I made so many years ago to empower others. I did it for many years as an educator, working to empower young minds, and then moved on as a professor to educate and empower adults. I now empower people as a leadership coach, and I work hard to bust the superwoman myth. I want women to live and lead really authentically. and to break free from constraints that, come from unrealistic expectations, those imposed by others, like in my situation, or those that women put on themselves. So, why did I tell you this story? Well, I share it because of the impact it had on my life. And for the most part, that impact is very, very positive. There's nothing wrong with education, right? Except that adding those degrees really didn't make me happy. It was stressful. It was stressful on me, and it was stressful very much so on my family. Now, this incident could have gone very differently. Um, I could have decided at that moment that that teacher was right, that I wasn't college material. Maybe I wasn't even high school material. Maybe I should have just dropped out. Thank goodness I didn't listen to that voice. And I'm just wondering what voice you're listening to, from the past or from the present. Have you absorbed it as your own? Does it impact you in a positive way? Does it bolster you up or does it tear you down? Does it bring you joy or does it cause discomfort? In other words, how's it serving you? And is it time to let it go and find your true inner voice? Now, listen, this is by no means a therapy podcast. Instead, really, my intent is to share personal narratives of success, candid conversations with women who have overcome challenges, and really some practical tips that are helpful for you to achieve harmonious blends of, your career, your personal fulfillment, and just those everyday responsibilities that we all have to live up to. I really mean to inspire you, right? To empower you to listen to your own voice. I couldn't find my voice as a 16-year-old, but I've worked hard to find it as an adult. Margaret Atwood is an author that I love to read, and she has a beautiful quote that's something like this: "If you want to find your voice, you have to listen for it. If you want to find your voice, you have to listen for it." Even as an adult, I was listening to that teacher's voice in my head and in my heart from years ago and still trying to prove him wrong. His voice became my voice. I tried wearing this Superwoman cape for years and years, thinking I was doing a good job. I had a family, career, these constant degrees, just adding them up one after another. But there were holes in my cape. I just couldn't do it all, right? I missed out on so much. I did a poor job at a lot of it, I'm sure. And then one day I decided just to shed that cape. I don't have to do it anymore. I don't have to be everything for everyone and constantly be on. And you know what? Really, it's a feeling of liberation and it's joyful. So I encourage you to get real with the voice that you hear. I'm not talking about that inner voice that we hear in our heads that's the constant critic of you're no good and you're going to make a mistake. Not that voice. The one that's trying to protect us from harm, right? Something that might happen in certain situations. We're going to dedicate another episode to that chatter, constant chatter from the inner critic. But what I'm really referring to here is what's deep within you, your inner guidance. It's that true voice that really allows you to express your authentic self, to follow your passions and to live out your purpose. Now, if you are following that voice and you're authentic and the answer is yes, rock on, sister. Keep doing what you're doing and what brings you joy. But here's the challenge. If that answer is no, you've got some work to do, some inner work, some difficult work. You really have to spend some time alone with yourself and think about the path you're on and why you're on that path, why you're doing what you're doing. And there's a couple ways that you can help discover this inner voice or rediscover it, right? And one of the great ways is journaling. Now, some people love to journal and some people hate to journal, but it is great to get your thoughts down on page, right? It's very beneficial. You can start to look for patterns. You can look for insights, right? You can draw, you can add things to it and start to collect it. You can also collect your thoughts, right? And really look at what that inner voice is saying. Now, you could also get creative, right? You could try to engage in, I don't know, drawing or painting or some other appealing activity that allows that state of flow where you kind of lose track of time and it helps you create a space for mindfulness, which is key. I remember one time that I took, I engaged in some watercoloring, first time ever. It wasn't a class per se, but there was a leader. And we were watercoloring and we got through, and she said, "Time's over. We've all finished." And I thought, gosh, that was only like 10 minutes long. Like, I thought we were going to be here for an hour or so. When in essence, we had been there for an hour and a half. So that's the flow, right? When you're doing something that just allows you to be outside of that immediate surrounding and go deep within yourself and be mindful. There are other ways too that you can create this mental space of that you need to look for that inner voice. One is meditation, right? Stillness, intentionality, and focus. You have to look for these types of activities. You have to create a space in mindfulness in the activities you do. You can also take self assessments to discover your values if you don't already know them. And then you can see if your values are aligning with your actions. That's key. Values are aligning with actions. If they're not, there's a chance that you're not listening to that inner voice or you haven't identified that inner voice. You know, when we fly around in a cape and we're busy and we're trying to do everything for everybody and be everything for everyone, it certainly doesn't lend itself to the ability to pause and engage in this self discovery. Now, I'll warn you, sometimes this inner work in and discovery can be scary because you find out things about yourself that you have buried or haven't really realized or haven't lived out. But it can also lead to new places and new careers and new adventures, and no cape is required. So I hope you take some time and assess your inner voice because it matters. And join me in our next episode to hear from our guest, Amy McGregor. And we're going to talk about some things you may be doing that really you shouldn't be, and they just don't matter. Your true voice matters, and I'm on your side. Until next time.